Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. When it comes to living a happy, fulfilled life, I think there are a lot of people out there that think that happiness is something we're kind of born with, or some people are just luckier than others. Happiness isn't something that you work at. It's more something that some people just get. They're the lucky ones, and other people just don't get it. They're unlucky. Do you know the statue by Michelangelo in Florence? You may have never seen it in person, but it is a beautiful sculpture. Perhaps one of the most beautiful sculptures ever created throughout history. As I'm sure you can surmise, that most beautiful David wasn't initially David. It was initially a large rock of marble. And then Michelangelo, with his masterful artwork, created the David. In today's podcast, I want to talk about making a most beautiful sculpture of your life, just like Michelangelo made the most beautiful sculpture of David. It is work. It is effort. People aren't lucky. They work at it. But when they work at it, what they create is happiness. And that happiness shines in their lives. And other people can see it. So when I was looking up at David and seeing the beauty of that sculpture, in the same way, when I meet people whose lives are going well, I look at them and say, oh my goodness, what a beautiful life. And I know that life took work. It took effort. It took sculpturing them into something beautiful. And I don't mean physically beautiful. I mean beautiful at the happiness level, where their hearts are filled with joy, where they find peace and serenity in the daily moments. Regardless of what's happening to them, they find beauty in life. And I think what we discover with this is that life is like sculpting, in that we are sculpting our life, one day at a time, one breath at a time. It is work. People that lives are going well, truly going well at the heart level, are doing things to create that life. They're sculpting a beautiful life for themselves. And today we are going to explore how we can do that in our lives. And the first step on this journey is to acknowledge that it is work. We need to let go of the fact that some people are lucky and others aren't. When it comes to happiness, we all can create happy lives, whether we're in a prison or whether we're in a mansion. It really doesn't matter when it comes to happiness. What does matter, though, is that each morning when we wake up, we say to ourselves, if I want to create happiness and peace in my life, I have to do things to create that. And every action, every thought that I take will have an impact on my sculpture, on my life. So the question I ask myself is, throughout the day, what am I sculpting? Am I creating things that are bringing beauty and peace and joy to my lives? By perhaps helping a neighbor, or spending time in nature, or reaching out to a friend, or reading a good book, or studying the aspects of a happy life? Am I doing these things? Or am I instead engaged in gossip, or critical thinking, or destructive behavior towards others or myself? We all know what our actions are, and when we say it doesn't matter, then we're going down a path of not sculpting something beautiful. When we say that everything matters, every choice I make, every thought that I have matters, then we work on creating good thoughts, peaceful thoughts, loving thoughts, kind thoughts. And with these thoughts and with these actions, we begin to sculpt the most beautiful creation called our life. And our lives begin to become filled more with happiness. So when we wake up each morning, let's ask ourselves, what am I going to sculpt today? Because I'm going to sculpt something. I'm either going to sculpt something grotesque and ugly, Or perhaps I will continue to work on my David, and something beautiful will come of this, because I know if I keep working on this each day and throughout the day, through love and kindness towards myself and all others, even my enemies, what I'll discover is I'm creating something beautiful and that I'm happy. We can all be happy. It just takes work. When Michelangelo created the David, he spent hours and days and weeks and months creating that most beautiful sculpture through incredible work and sweat and exhaustion. But yet the end result was magnificent. We too have to work on this. And we do that by realizing that every choice we make throughout the day is sculpting us. Every choice. What we watch on our phones, what we listen to in conversations, what we think in our heads, how we treat others, they all accumulate into a day of sculpting. The question to ask ourselves is, what am I sculpting throughout the day? Am I listening to things that are negative, that are harsh, that are critical? Am I having hateful, cruel thoughts towards others? Am I hanging on to resentment and hatred towards others? Or am I working towards healing from the past? Am I working towards exposing myself towards people and things that are kind and loving? Am I spending so much time in nature so that I'm letting my heart heal? Am I surrounding myself with people that love and support me as I love and support them? All day long, we're sculpting our lives. The question is, what does that sculpture look like? We created it, and we can make it beautiful, even if today it feels very grotesque. We can make our lives so beautiful. I promise. It just takes work. We have to start somewhere. Let's start today. What could we do today that would create smiles in our heart? Maybe watching something that is uplifting and beautiful. Maybe spending time in nature. Maybe reaching out to friends that we know are always loving and supportive. Maybe doing things for others, helping out people that have far less than we do. There are so many ways we can improve our lives and get better. But we have to realize that each choice we make throughout the day is sculpting us. And those who create lives similar to the David have done a lot of work and continue to do work to make sure their sculpture stays beautiful. Happiness is not something that some people are lucky to get. It is something that we create throughout our lives until our dying breath. It definitely takes work. It takes effort. But if we don't give up, we can find that we can create the most beautiful sculpture of ourselves. Now, some of you I know may be listening to this and say, but you don't realize, Dr. Puff, I've done some evil, heinous things in my life, and there's no way I can create beauty out of that. And I know you're wrong. Though most of us have never visited France and the Louvre, if you ever get a chance to go there, there's a sculpture, a very famous sculpture, some people consider the greatest masterpiece of Hellenistic sculpture. It's called the Winged Victory of Samothrace. And I'm sure we'll all remember it. It's the most beautiful sculpture of an angel, but she doesn't have a head. That's right, she doesn't have a head. And yet the critics of the world consider it one of the most beautiful sculptures ever created. And if you've seen it, as I have, it will take your breath away. It is truly stunning. And I think we sometimes create lives where we lose parts. But where this sculpture can be so helpful is to realize beauty. A beautiful life can still be created when, along the way, things have fallen off and we've had sufferings, perhaps physical sufferings, perhaps people that we've deeply loved, we've hurt and lost them. There's many ways we go through life and have destruction to our sculpture, but that in no way impedes us from still creating something beautiful. If we truly want to have happiness and joy in our lives, one of the biggest things we have to embrace is forgiveness and kindness. We have to forgive and be kind towards those who hurt us. And we have to particularly forgive and be kind towards ourselves when we hurt others. Because we will. It's hard to go through life and not hurt another person. And when we hurt another person, we begin to sculpt something ugly because of our self-loathing. Instead, if we realize we are human and it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them. And there may be consequences to what we've done, but we can still create ourselves into an image as beautiful as the winged victory of Samothrace. If we want to keep sculpting a beautiful life, one filled with happiness and peace, then what will help us accomplish this goal is realizing that every choice we make, every interaction we have, every thought we engage in throughout the day is sculpting something. Is it sculpting the David? Or is it sculpting something not as beautiful, or perhaps even ugly? We can have beautiful lives, but it takes work, ongoing work, daily work, hourly work. I know that may sound exhausting, but unhappiness is far more exhausting. If we take the time to begin to really commit to having and creating the most beautifully sculpted life possible, then with that intention, throughout the day, we'll think about, is this adding something beautiful to my life? Is it sculpting into something like the David? Or is it tearing down and corrupting my sculpted life of happiness? Again, throughout the day, we are sculpting something. The question is, are the things that we're sculpting centered in kindness, in love, or are they centered in hatred and anger? When we work towards creating and sculpting something beautiful, it does take work, it takes commitment. But if each day we make that commitment, we will find that we can all have beautiful lives. We just have to commit. We have to work at it regularly throughout the day and realize that every choice that we make, no matter how insignificant we may think it is, matters. But you may be wondering, Dr. Puff, I don't know how to sculpt a beautiful life. How do I do that? Well, even Michelangelo had to have a teacher. So we do need help doing that. I've created now 333 episodes of the Happiness Podcast. That's a lot you can learn. Or find someone else, a teacher that can help you navigate life's course. We need help learning how to sculpt our life. But then once we have those tools, because those tools are available, then we have to do the work. The work is in our hands. But what I believe to the core of my being is that each and every one of us, everyone listening to this talk right now, can have the most beautiful life imaginable. The only thing keeping you and I from that is ourselves. But if we work on changing ourselves, then we'll find that our lives truly can be magnificent. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to happinesspodcast.org. And until next time, accept what is, love what is.